Hello everyone and welcome to a really exciting game from the 2019 Women's FIDE Grand Prix. It's Humpy Koneru versus Alina Kashlinskaya, and it's one of those games that you will want to show to your friends at the bar and the library. Now this is the Women's FIDE Grand Prix is also first of four stages that will determine two of the participants of the 2021 Women's Candidate Tournament. So basically, this is as a World Chess Championship cycle. But the game is really awesome, so let's just dive straight into it. Koneru with the white pieces opens with d4. Kashlinskaya goes knight to f6 with c4, e6, knight to f3, and of course d5. We enter the Queen's Gambit declined. With knight to c3, and now bishop to b4, the Ragozin defense, and bishop to g5 now, with h6, and now bishop captures on f6. You could also go h4, of course, but nowadays bishop captures on f6 is the more popular line. We have queen captures on f6, and here, if you remember, we've covered it not so long ago. Ding Liren against Anish Giri. Ding played queen to a4 here in the Singfield Cup, won a very nice game against Giri, it was just a very nice game. But here we have e3. It's more of a timid approach. We have castles and now rook to c1. So these are all the mainline moves. And here d captures on c4, which is very interesting. We always mention how black will always want to wait for white to develop the light square bishop and only then capture to force white to lose a tempo. But here d captures on c4 is the strongest move recommended by the engine, and everyone plays it in this line. Probably the reason why you don't want to wait for white to develop the light square bishop is due to the fact that you want to play c5. For example, if you play c5 now, then white can, for example, play c captures on d5, pawn captures, and now you have this pawn here on d5. After d captures on c5, there's a double attack on it now. So, for example, you cannot recapture. If you recapture, just knight captures here, opens up an attack against the bishop here. Someone probably analyzed it thoroughly, and that's why d captures on c4. In this line, you don't wait for the bishop to be developed. Bishop captures on c4 and then now c5. Now it's a different story. D captures does nothing really, as there's nothing for white to gobble up on d5. White castles, and now c captures on d4. Before capturing, you go knight to e4 with an attack on the queen, and queen to e7. Just to show an example, it is possible to defend your pawn. For example, queen g6, you go after the knight and prepare to capture here, but it's a really dangerous position which can go really wrong for black. For example, bishop d3, you put a bishop on this diagonal that the queen occupies. Now f5, knight g3, and okay, now you can grab the pawn, not allow white to recapture, but then white plays queen b3, puts the queen on this really nice diagonal, pins the e6 pawn. Also, the bishop on b4 is under attack, and if you go e captures on f2 with check, grabbing another pawn, rook captures, and bishop to e7, seems like everything is fine, but it's really not, because white can go knight captures on f5, and here black will just fall apart. There's not much to do here. You can't even give up the rook for a knight and bishop, because white first plays rook captures on c8 with check. For example, king h7, now knight d4 with a triple attack against the rook here. Also, the rook cannot move because you lose the queen with check. You can't develop anything. This is just completely lost for black. So this is one pawn you do not want to defend, this guy here. So queen back to e7, and now e captures on d4, just recapturing the pawn. Rook to d8, nicely developing the rook on the d file, and now queen to c2. The queen and rook battery work nicely. Now on the open c file, bishop to d7. Kashlinskaya wants to play bishop to c6 to close off the queens and rooks influence on the c file, and also put the bishop on this wonderful diagonal. With a3, pushing the bishop back, bishop to a5, and now even b4. We have bishop to b6, and now rook f to e1. This is a very important move for this game, and you should remember this rook to e1 move. But okay, bishop to c6. Now those bishops are nicely placed. The bishop pair is working beautifully here. But still black has to develop the knight and the rook, and has to figure out a way how to do it. We have rook c back to d1, putting another defender to the d4 pawn. And here your spidey sense has to tingle here. There is no way around it. If you don't do something, then you have to feel that white has extreme attacking potential here. You should play something like bishop captures on e4. The queen cannot I mean, for example, queen captures, now knight to d7, you prepare knight to f6, and now after, for example, even give up a pawn, and then rook c8, black will have a playable game. But here black played queen to c7, probably with the idea that if white plays a slow move like h3 or something, then you go bishop captures. Now rook has to capture because the queen is stuck guarding the bishop here. For example, rook captures, and now you go knight d7. The bishop still cannot move, the queen on c2 is undefended. So there's that. So after this queen to c7 move, which was played in the game, this doesn't work. But why it doesn't work, feel free to pause the video while I give you a couple of seconds and try to figure out why this doesn't work. So, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you have just found the winning move of a game that you will be showing to your friends at the bar and the library. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, knight e to g5, that's right, it's really an awesome move. And I saw Chess24 tweeted this position when it happened, and I was like, very nice. And I thought when I saw the position, okay, obviously queen h7 is a threat, if you capture the other knight takes this guy's place, but I thought if bishop captures on f3, then there's nothing there. Queen h7, okay, king f8, there's no continuation. But was I wrong? So let's first just show what happens if you capture the knight. If you capture the knight, king f8, you don't want queen h7 to come with check, you want to have a safe square for a king. Queen to h7, and now bishop to d5, blocking off one of the attackers, also putting more defense to the e6 pawn. But now bishop captures, rook captures on d5, and now queen to h8 check. King e7, and now queen captures on g7. And now there's really not much you can do here. The f7 pawn is threatened, you have to capture here, check, king f8, and now d5. And here black is just without moves. Once the position opens up, the two rooks will become extremely strong. Queen h6 will be dangerous. You cannot capture, otherwise queen h6 followed by rook to e8 will be mate. You could try to develop some pieces, but that won't really help you. You're just going to capture here. Still, there's nothing to do. Pawn captures, you're just going to get queen h6 check. King g8, you're going to capture here with check. King back, queen h6 with check, king g8, and now rook to e7, threatening mate here. And there's not all that much to do. You can play bishop captures on f2, but white will just ignore you. For example, king to h1. And now if bishop to d4, blocking, let's say, this square for some reason, you can still just go queen h7 followed by queen to f7 mate, or you can even just make fun of black and even capture that bishop, as the c1 square is covered by the white queen, so there is no back rank mate for black. But yeah, just one of the nice things that can happen if h captures on g5. So of course black played bishop captures on f3, and this is what I thought when I saw the position. Yeah, there's no continuation here. I mean, what do you play? Okay, queen to h7 was played, king to f8, but what now? I guess you recapture the bishop and the game is over. But it's not over. And for those of you who also found this move, then you are really gonna impress your friends at the bar in the library, because here white played rook captures on e6. You know, to also add additional info, bishop captures and knight captures on e6 also wins for white, but rook captures on e6 forces resignation, because now the e file is closed, the black king cannot get to e7, and queen h8 will be mate. So if you play f captures on e6, it's also just a very nice forced mate, because you don't go for this check and the queen, rather you just go for a nice mating sequence. Queen h8 check, king e7, queen captures on g7 check, king d6, queen to e5 check, king to e7, and now queen captures on e6 with check. We have king to f8, queen g8 with check, the bishop nicely defends the queen over there, king to e7, queen f7 check, king to d6, and now queen to e6 will be mate, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, after rook captures on e6, Alina Kashlinskaya decided there was no point in continuing this game, and this is how this beautiful miniature happened. I'm just super excited that this game took place, as it's 20 moves, really a wonderful miniature. So I do hope you enjoyed it, and thank you to everyone who suggested it, as it's a very nice game. So yeah, I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Alex Larman for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the FIDE World Cup. Maybe if such a nice game arises, we're gonna check it out as well, checking up on your suggestions as usual, and so on. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.